Hello, welcome to Now Tell Us. This is a place where we have guests come and tell us stories. They come and inspire us. They come and educate us. And always we are having great guests with us. Today we have a special guest who is telling us to live without habits. I don't know what's in that. I have not heard before someone tell me to drop my habits. So it's something that we are going to learn together. Anyway, before we proceed, let me remind you that if you want to see this episode in the future, if you want to see our past episodes, and if you want to see future episodes, go to nowtellus.com. You get to see them or listen to them on your favorite podcast platforms. That's iTunes, Audible, Google Podcasts, Spotify, name them. You get all our episodes there. And so at this point, I'm going to go and meet our guest today. So let's go together and meet our guest. Here we go. Hello, Tricia. Hi, how are you?
Hello. I am well. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm well too. Welcome to Now Tell Us. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here.
Uh, Beautiful. Now, can we know who is Tricia? Who is Tricia?
Oh, wow. That's a big question. If I think about it, I've been a lot of different versions of me.
Mhm.
It there's over 50 years of versions to date myself. But I am, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I am, a caring, giving friend, I'm I'm a master life interventionist,
Mhm.
and so people kind of go, right? I've been gifted with the ability to have a beautiful insight or intuition when it comes to where people could benefit from an insightful transformation.
Mhm.
And, um, you know, it was something that I didn't see in myself until, I became, well, until much later in life.
Okay.
um, and it wasn't until I allowed myself to truly see me, to truly allow myself to be, the genuine, authentic, organic being that I was made to be.
Mhm.
And um and and it's just so, I'm just so thankful and so blessed and so just intrigued every day walking this journey that I've been on for about 10 years now. And it's every day is just a new realization, a new um journey, a new adventure.
Okay. And where are you based right now?
um Home base is on the central coast of California.
Beautiful. Now, I
Yeah.
know that you are a recovery lifestyle enthusiast and you are a speaker, you are a writer, and you are a nationally certified life coach and an international master addictions specialist. Now,
Mhm.
and I see in those aspects, I see addictions. Any personal experience with that?
Absolutely. Wow, I have a lifelong story with addictions, whether they be process, behavioral, or chemical in nature. Um, and it really dates all the way back. I think I was born that way,
Mm-hmm.
always with that need for control and perfectionism, and this like internal pressure to perform, people pleasing, codependency, food addictions, eating disorders, disordered eating. Wow. I had a very long attachment to a relationship with alcohol. And, you know, uh, and ultimately at, one point, I had, some pharmaceuticals on board, right? Like it was just the habitual way that I did everything, right? Like even with Motrin,
Mhm.
right? Like even with Motrin, it would be like wake up and like take it prophylactically to make sure, like just in case I might feel a little pain today, like I'm just going to go ahead and take 800 milligrams of Motrin to make sure I have 12 hours where I don't have to worry about maybe feeling pain. And anyway, so yes, I could talk for hours about all of the addictive ways that I functioned until I realized, that that's what I was doing.
Mhm.
And sure, there were some that were seated in traumas and coping, some that were emotional releases, some that were, more mental health related,
Mhm.
eating disorders and disordered eating, and food addiction, like they're a whole different thing, right? Like we're talking about a big relationship. It's not something that we can just put down. We can't just say like, I'm going to not eat. Although I gave that a try.
Mhm.
And that didn't serve me well either. So, our relationship with food and our physical body and what the image that we see in the mirror and the language that we use when we speak to ourselves about ourselves, it's it's huge. It's huge. So it's a longer journey, and that's probably my longest recovery journey that I've been on. In fact,
Mhm.
it's been 25, 26 years now.
Okay. And when you are going through those addictions and those disorders, eating disorders, what effect had it on you and your way of living and your career and your relationships? What effect?
Well, I'd like to say like I did all right, right? Like my husband and I, since I met my husband, 20, almost 26 years ago, 25, 26 years ago, it actually looked a whole lot different than it did before that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it really, I mean, sure, it had an impact, but not so much. It was more of a personal impact, right? Like, you know, being a parent with somebody and allowing unconditional positive regard in my life really was like a huge life change for me. That's why I say, like 25 years ago, 26 years ago, like everything like really turned around for me,
Mm-hmm.
although there were still habits that were holding me hostage.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I've had it, the last 25 years have been beautiful. We've had to face a lot of things, the internal turmoil, right? Because not everything's ready to heal at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas, you know, so a recovery journey or, letting go of addictions and habits and things, they have their own way of being ready. And so, you know, I was always able to put my family in first position and show up. Now I know not everybody can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But we have five amazing, thriving adult children. And so there isn't, I don't have like one of those ugly stories that most people associate with it.
Oh, yeah,
So
because you've had so
I'm
many stories.
fortunate. I'm
Mm-hmm.
fortunate, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, but it was still there nonetheless, which I think is so important to normalize because
Mm-hmm.
most of the people that come to see me are like, I don't want to go to treatment, right? I'm like, well, what makes you think you have to, right? So there's, there's a space for the different levels of treatment that we have, and I've
Mm-hmm.
worked in every single one of them, and I feel blessed to have spent time in each level of mental health and addiction recovery, so that I really have that heightened awareness of who belongs where when,
Mm-hmm.
right? But so, there are high functioning, high profile business people that are functioning inside of their lives, yet still are being held hostage by these habits and addictions and negative attachments that are really just crumbling your lives. And what we don't realize, and to further go back to your question, to maybe answer it a little bit better, it was an internal, bondage, if you will, right? Like,
Mhm.
I had to have things a certain way. Things had to happen at a certain time, or, everything had to be, just so. I became uncomfortable inside of my own skin.
Mhm.
I became emotionally uncomfortable. I
Mhm.
became unstable and rocky. So, um, that rigidity is of that, gotta have, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right?
Mhm.
uh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's good and well put. Now, how was your journey on? I mean, on recovery? How did you recover from those addictions? Those. Yeah.
Well, again, like I mentioned, there's the different levels of
Mhm.
standardized treatment for everybody. I did visit that. I needed, wanted to do things safe and smart, um, and alcohol and benzodiazepines, which most people, to give everybody something, like Xanax, um, removing those things from your body, from your system, when you've had them on board for a long time, is
Mhm.
extremely dangerous. So, I educated myself to that. I went to a medical detox where I could be monitored. My blood pressure was high. My, liver functions were, acting up. And, so I went and I did that. And I actually I picked out a 30-day treatment program where I, just went, reset. And that was wonderful. And it was beautiful. Um, and I felt stabilized, but it was when I came home that, you know, I was like, okay, so they, the now what's next, right? Like I had I had like 30, 40 years of conditioned way of doing things, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, end of the day, reach for a beer, or, just even, again, those attitudes and behaviors and just the processes,
Mhm.
the process addiction of everything having to be just so, like, anyway, there just wasn't really anything offered to somebody like me who just wanted to learn how to experience their environment and living differently. There was nothing wrong with my environment. I just
Mhm.
wanted I just wanted to experience it differently. So I went to school,
Mhm.
right? Like, so for me, I went to school, I dove in and I studied and learned everything for 5.5 years, about process behavioral and chemical addictions. And what I uncovered was truly, transformative, because I taught myself the practical application of those psychological skill sets and tactics. Um, and, and, I incorporated them in my life, and I learned how to use them in all different kinds of categories. And it changed the lens in which I saw the world. It, it,
Mhm.
it, it altered the filters of how, I heard and, and experienced things.
Mhm.
And it was so transformative that's when I really feel like that insight, that instinct, that intuition was really unlocked and unleashed. And
Mhm.
it's really where, all of my passion work, all of the, the healing and transformation that I do with other folks was really born.
Mhm.
But it's also where I learned that, society lives in a very rigid in a very rigid way.
Mhm.
And that all of our habits that we have, good, bad, or indifferent, are really just seated in a pressure to perform, and they don't allow for much flexibility. They actually promote a lot of disappointment, and and negative thoughts, feelings,
Mhm.
and beliefs about ourselves. Um, and I mean, think about it. If you can't make the 6 a.m. spin class, and your whole day falls apart, and now you're in a bad mood, and it attaches to everything else, and you're just, right? All because, one of your kids got sick and had to stay home, so you couldn't go to that 6 a.m. class. Like, there's something wrong with that. That
Mhm.
is no way to function. Like, we need to create lifestyles that serve us, that allow us to flourish, but also be bendable, flexible, pliable, to allow for this spaciousness, this openness for, new things to emerge and evolve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's good. And as you remember, when we are starting, I said something that maybe many of our listeners and our viewers may not have an experience in: dropping all our habits, the good ones, I mean, the bad ones, because that's what we are used to, dropping my bad habits and also my good habits. And this is what you're talking about, being constrained by the habits that we take. Maybe you can drive us towards understanding more deeper, because you have. You have gone to school and got a degree, and through your research, through your experiments, your personal experiences, you can enlighten some of our listeners and our viewers. Now tell us.
Sure. I mean, this could, I don't know, this could open up a whole ton of conversations, right? Like on all the different things. But if you just even think about how frequently or often you feel overwhelm, how frequently or often you feel this struggle, right? Like I'm juggling and I'm multitasking and I'm just all over the place, right? Like, oh, or even that need to be everything to everybody, right? That
Mm-hmm,
people pleasing, right? And just having all of those control needs, like in that internal dialogue, those spirals, those are habits, right? Like
mm-hmm,
that overwhelm, it's a habitual way of of judging ourselves, of putting pressure on ourselves, and not having that ability to say, you know what, I want to be everything to everybody, but it's always at my detriment, right? Like,
mm-hmm,
so that's a habit that people have that is very prevalent. The
mm-hmm,
the inability to allow our phones to sit for 2 hours without touching them and responding to, right? And generally, like we're more reactive in nature,
yeah.
right? So it's like, hey, could you do this for me? Yes. Well, you did not at once. There was not even one pause of a second to think of how it might impact you, or do you even want to, or do you have space to, right? Like if it's noon, your day should already be set up, right? Like
Mm-hmm,
so there's all kinds of things. So people will say, oh, I'm gonna end this habit, and I'm gonna use something a little bit easier for people to understand, because
mm-hmm,
those process and behavioral addictions can kind of be a little tricky to navigate through. And it's usually something I uncover when we talk about something like more like this, right?
mm-hmm,
My relationship with alcohol since the pandemic began has gotten a little bit out of control, right? Like I've
mm-hmm,
noticed, instead of drinking on, Fridays and Saturday evenings, that I'm, having a bottle of wine every night.
mm-hmm,
And it's gotten a little out of control. So I'm going to, set a New Year's resolution, which I think is crazy. But that's a whole different topic, right? So I'm going to set a New Year's resolution, and I'm going to, I'm going to not drink at all for January, and I'm going to dive into an exercise and fitness, routine. And that's what I'm going to do. Okay.
mm-hmm.
So now we're changing one habit for another habit.
Yeah.
And now we're going to dive into that. We're going to achieve at the end of the month. And now we're going to reward ourselves with what? Having a glass of wine or whatever, eating whatever we want. And then it's either going to, you know, put bad thoughts in our head, or we're going to feel icky, or, I don't know, right? Like what I see with that all in, all out, especially of the diet culture, or the dry Januaries. And I'm not saying don't do a dry January by any means, but like while you're doing it, let's be productive and proactive about it, and look at your relationship with alcohol and why you need to go dry to begin with.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, and because I guarantee you, if you're saying, oh, it's just for the sugar, or, whatever, you're surfacing it, and you're cutting yourself short on looking at the real issue. Um, But, so we change one habit for the next. So
Mm-hmm.
now we have to, in this hard, rigid, disciplined way, like we have to exercise every day.
Yeah.
Nothing about any of these things, these habits, are lifelong, manageable, and maintainable. So if
Mm-hmm.
you want to get healthier, you want to get more fit, if you want to eat better, you want to sleep better, you want to have more mental clarity, you want to have less overwhelm, and you want to have, more playtime, you want to have a better life balance. And let me tell you, life balance consists of 14 different categories. Anything less than that, you're not really doing the deal.
Mm-hmm.
um, so, if we want all of those things, we have to create a lifestyle, not a band-aid, not a fix, not a all in, all out, not a, habitual, rigid way of doing it that won't bend or flex. Because guess what? Life's going to throw a wrench at you one
Mm-hmm.
day, or you're going to take a vacation or whatever. So there's, a lot of cyclical reasons why people, do the quarterly diet, or they have to, cleanse every quarter, or they have to, do whatever, right? Um,
Yeah.
or, oh, I do really well disciplining myself for a while and then it creeps back in. It's because you don't understand the nature of addiction and how it works. And this doesn't have to be alcohol. This could be food. This could be shopping. This could be your calendar, right? Like, oh, I fixed my calendar. I made all of these like rules and things in it. And all of a sudden, a month later, you realize it's gotten out of control again,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we don't have a lifestyle. We don't have a way that we prefer to show up for ourselves. In fact, most of us don't live for ourselves first, because when we do, we feel guilty, selfish, punished, restricted, whatever. And we need to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
So when we make a lifestyle, it's not habitual. It's, I prefer, right, to be healthier. Well, lifelong,
Mm-hmm.
manageable, and maintainable, everybody can get physical activity 3 days a week, right? Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
need more than that. Okay, great. But if you set yourself up to expect 3 days, and you get more, then that's a bonus. That's a reward. But if you set yourself up to need to, be physically active 6 days a week and you fall short, now you're falling short. Now you're like, I didn't make my, I didn't hit my goal. And goals are rigid, and they're a pressure to perform in and of itself. Like, stop setting goals. Have aspirations. Know what
Mm-hmm.
objectives are going to get you there, and learn along the way. You know, allow yourself to venture off the path a little bit, smell some roses. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, everything in life doesn't have to be just so. Um,
Okay.
so we need a little bit of flexibility, bendability, pliability, less pressure. If it takes you a year to lose the 30 pounds and you do it healthy and you keep it off and it doesn't ever come back, like, isn't that better than like losing the 30 pounds for a couple of months and then having it creep back in over a couple of months and then needing to do it again? Definition
Mm-hmm.
of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Mm. Okay, we get that. Now, now I know that you've been working with people and helping them on their journey from recovery. How do you go about that?
Wow, several ways. There are several ways, because everybody is a unique being, right? So
Mm-hmm.
everybody has their own story, their own journey, their own needs. And so, it's very important that, I meet each person where they are. But to give you, right, so we have learn to live free is the foundational core work of developing the emotional intelligence you didn't know you didn't have but need to experience living different. It's
Mm-hmm.
proven time after time after time, 10 years straight, gets well over 95% life satisfaction in the people that have come to do this work with me.
Mm-hmm.
Evolve is a little bit longer, a little bit larger of a journey, but it's for those people who are really serious, that really want to, one, get all of that emotional intelligence, but also believe in the true um, value of conditioning it as a new way of being, but also inviting all of that personal esteem that is missing from our lives,
Mm-hmm.
removing comparison, removing trying to live up to some ideal that's, a societal, image of what things are to be like. So it's, all of that plus learning how to make it lifelong, manageable, and maintainable. And then there's loving your physical body, And this is where we really dive in and we get into your true and deep. And it's a very personal journey. And it's not one that until this year was done any other way but by invitation. It's now there for people to walk with me. But
Mhm.
it's definitely, it starts from, just that first look in the mirror, and we go through every piece of how we experience ourself, mind, body, spirit, and physical body.
Okay. Yeah, and if people want to connect with you, how can they reach you?
Super easy. Turningleafsrecovery.com. There's all kinds of easy ways to just set up a conversation with me. I love to chat. It's always an exploration. Again, it's more of that intuitive, space of do we have, a matching journey that we want to take together, so that we can create that insightful transformation. So that's probably the best way to find me.
Hmm. So once again, that's www.turningleafsrecovery.com, and you get
Mhm.
to connect with Tricia and work your way out of recovery if you're in such a situation as Tricia described. And there's much more that you can share with Tricia once you connect with her. And I know you're going to have a great time being connected with Tricia, or even just have a friend who is as good
Yeah.
as Tricia. Yeah. So it's been wonderful having you on our show. And we are almost through this show. But before we go, we'll ask you to tell us a few words that we should always remember. Which are they, Tricia?
This is your life too. It gets to look, feel, be however you want it to. You get to choose. That is my life motto, and I give that to everybody. You get to choose overwhelm, stress, anxiety, or you can choose peace, comfort, joy, relief, love.
It's just a choice you make. And this is coming from Tricia. Take it, use it, and also spread it to other people. Yeah, let them know that this life that they have, they can live positively by the choices that they make. It is only what is going to take you to where you want to be from where you are. The choices you make and the actions you take. Tricia tells us, drop your habits, be a free person, because this is a free life.
Yes.
Yes, so once again, we really appreciate you coming to our show. And we also appreciate every other person who's been here watching us. And yeah, thank you very much, Tricia.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yes. So you've been listening or watching Now Tell Us, and I've been your host, Anthony Morore. Together with Tricia Parido, we are saying bye for now.